Well, guys, today we're going to be getting to one of the more interesting reviews I'll be doing on my channel, and that is a review for the film Eraserhead. Now, Eraserhead came out in 1977, gets a 7.4 on IMDb, directed by David Lynch, and is really not the first David Lynch movie I've ever seen. I don't know too much about his filmography, believe it or not. I really honestly don't. I've always heard the name David Lynch, but I never really knew his filmography. He's a writer for Twin Peaks, writer for the Inland Empire. But I'm trying to get what he's directed. I think he's mainly known for writing things. But he's directed a few movies. A lot of shorts, a lot of documentaries. So those are really the only things I'm seeing here. A lot of shorts. Oh yeah, he directed The Elephant Man, which I've really heard about. I've heard a lot of great things about that movie. Blue Velvet. And he made a bunch of shorts before he made this movie, but this is pretty much his first film. And he would go on to be involved a lot with Twin Peaks, which would become a huge show that would blow up in the 90s and would, you know, kind of take over the TV scene at the time. So David Lynch does have a pretty good filmography here. I mean, he's also directed a movie called Dune. So I'm interested. I've heard about Blue Velvet. I've heard about Dune. I've heard about Twin Peaks. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard a little bit about it. I don't know what it's about, but I've heard about Twin Peaks. The Elephant Man I want to give a watch one day, and I knew for a long time I wanted to watch this film. Now, before we get into this review, this is one of those older movies that I feel is necessary to say spoiler alert for, because I want you guys to go out there and experience Eraserhead. I don't want you to watch this review if you have not seen Eraser. This is the first time I'm asking. If you have not seen Eraserhead yet, go watch Eraserhead, then come back to this review. Because for me, this is much more than just a film, and I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering why it's all in Japanese in the back. This is the region-free DVD. Oftentimes when I get movies off of whether eBay or Amazon, I tend to go for the region-free because they're a little bit more cheaper. They're usually located in other countries, and for it to get shipped in, it takes a while, so therefore the shipping is really low, and also the ultimate price is just very low. So I think I paid around $3 for this DVD. Doesn't really have any features, but it does have pretty, and honestly the picture really isn't the greatest either, but it kind of helps with this kind of a film. It really adds to the grittiness of this movie. But like I said, man, Eraserhead was a movie that I've always heard about, and every time that I ask somebody to describe this movie, everybody's like, just watch it. Don't ask somebody to describe it, just watch it. So it's kind of going to be difficult for me to do this review because it's one of those movies where you really can't talk about it. You just got to see it to understand it. This review will probably be very confusing. It'll be very hard to follow. And it's not intentionally, it's just because of how this movie is. This is a movie that uses a lot of metaphors, uses a lot of actual shots, and what you see is a much bigger meaning than what you actually see. And it's a very bizarre, very strange film that was definitely an experience, because going into it, I was expecting maybe like a classic styled black and white movie with, you know, maybe a monster or something in it. But it's not like that at all, actually. It's a very deep, a film that you've got to really analyze when you're watching it, and you have to pay attention. This is not one of those movies that us new school kids can just watch and be on our phones and texting and be like, oh yeah, this movie's pretty good. No, you gotta pay attention to this movie, because if you don't pay attention, you will be lost. You will not know what the hell is going on, and you'll be asking questions a lot. So if you're gonna see this movie, go watch it, pay close attention to it. Don't be on your phone, don't be reading a book, don't be doing this and doing that. Pay attention to this movie if you want to get the film. Because there's been a lot of people who have done rants or have discussed Eraserhead and not been a fan of it. And for me, it's because they either weren't paying the closest attention to it, or they just couldn't really understand the message of the film. Some films you can watch over and over again, and you'll find new things in it. Like for me, I didn't just watch A Clockwork Orange for the first time and immediately understand the film. I had to watch it again and again and again, and it started clicking with me on what's going on in this movie. It's deeper than what you're actually seeing. There's a deeper meaning behind it. This is one of those movies. I think I watched it twice, and the second time around watching it and really paying attention to the film, I discovered some really interesting things about it. And to try to get into the storyline, you follow this guy named Henry Spencer, played by Jack Nance, has a really weird hairstyle, which is why I always thought it was called Eraserhead, because for me, I don't know why, but when I seen the title and I seen the hair, kind of reminded me of an eraser hairdo, maybe like an Eraserhead hairdo, but it's not. That's not why it's called Eraserhead. There's another meaning behind it. But he basically is working at this job, this factory, and he's in this really heavily industrial environment. He lives in this heavy machinery, very loud environment, and it's basically this movie is following his life, only through an alternate view, kind of like through a nightmare, or through a dream, if you will, because it's kind of his reality, but altered, to where when he goes to this apartment building, first of all, you have these really long shots that just, pan shots, no music. There's really no music in this movie besides a couple scenes. But it's just pan shots, very quiet. Not really quiet, but very industrial noises, machine noises. Really just bizarre sound effects. The movie even opens with shots of what looks to be like outer space or something like that. With some really bizarre, shots. And then it goes to the factory and he's walking out of it. Walks to his apartment and pretty much decides to go and visit a girlfriend of his. And she invites him to her parents' house, and things get very awkward there. And I'll get into more detail of the certain scenes in this film in a second. But this movie pretty much, after that, he has a kid, and the kid is very deformed. And you would think it's maybe because it's a monster, but it's really a deeper meaning behind it. And that's what I mean. I gotta go over this movie multiple times for you guys to kind of follow with me. And to kind of describe it to you guys, do a review for you guys. I kind of have to go back over it over and over again. But, so he has this kid, this child who is very deformed, has a cow face, like a human/cow face. And from there on, he starts having different visions, different things going on, to where, he's seeing different dreams that he's going through. And, he has an affair. There's one point where, at the end of the movie, everything just goes off the rails. And I'll get into that in a second. But the basis of the story is that you're seeing the warped reality of Henry Spencer's life, of what he goes through every day, his routines, what he has to see and approach and confront every day. Only the way that I look at it is that you're seeing the warped version. Maybe if he's having a nightmare, maybe if it's a total opposite of his reality, you're seeing it through a different reality. They even have shots of this guy who's pulling these levers, and you could get from that, maybe when he pulls a lever, it's some part of his life being changed. And there's a point where a lever is being pulled and it breaks, and the guy is trying to fix it, and maybe that's something that went wrong in his life and he doesn't really know about it. And to get into more of the scenes, you have the scene where he goes over to the girl's parents' house, and it gets really awkward because there's long pauses and people shaking their head, like that, and they'll say something like, "Oh, well, how was your day?" And he'll be like, "Oh, it was great." And then there'll be a long 30-second pause, and then he goes to eat this food that he was given. There's this sludge stuff that comes out of his food, and from what I got from that scene is that, you know, it's very uncomfortable to go over to a girlfriend's parents' house and to have dinner with her family. And I think that's what that scene kind of captured, is that uncomfortableness. But what David Lynch did great in this movie is that whatever this character feels is how you feel. If he's horrified, you're horrified because of the imagery and the sounds and the gritty, just gritty sludginess of this movie. And that it can go from a very, you know, not scary film to a very eerie film fast. And, you know, I think the deformed baby is maybe somebody who has a kid and wasn't really ready for it, or maybe has a kid and is dealing with this responsibility. There's a point where even the girlfriend gets up and leaves, and you don't really see her again. And maybe that could be a metaphor for people who kind of leave their children, you know, the ones who don't stay there and kind of leave, you know, while trying to raise their kids, and they just up and leave. It could be a metaphor for that. The deformed child could also be a metaphor for parents that, you know, or children that, you know, could be different than other children, but Henry still loves his child. There's a point where he does get annoyed by his child, and it could go in different directions. You've got to see it to kind of understand it, so you could get different things from that scene. But there's even a point where Henry just accidentally kills his kid, and like the most crazy scene ever, where his kid, and it's totally by accident, doesn't mean to do it, but his kid, he's trying to, I think he was trying to like cut the blanket off of his kid, or something like that. He was using like scissors, and when he opens the blanket, he like pulls his son apart, and it's just crazy. It's like gory, and there's blood everywhere. It was just disgusting. And you can get different things from that. And, you know, later on, Henry is having an affair. And I like that shot where Henry and the girl, they're kind of making out on this bed, and they kind of sink into the bed. And what I got from that is kind of sinking into, a person sinking into lust. You know, they're sinking into that affair, that they're being drawn into that lust. And it ultimately causes them to sink into the bed. There's a scene where there's this weird looking chick dancing on the stage at these, like, they look like worms, but I'm assuming they're like giant sperm cells. That's pretty much, they look like giant sperm cells. They come down and she's stepping on them, and I don't really know. Maybe that could be a metaphor for like different lives that were meant to be, and that, you know, I don't know. I don't know. It could be like the sperm cells representing lives, and when she stomps on it could be a life taken. And she's stepping on these different things, these worms, sperm cells, whatever you want to say. And then Henry pops up, and then his head falls off, and then his head gets taken to this factory where they drill a hole in it, and they make Eraserheads for pencils. I honestly don't know that metaphor. I watched it again, and I really could not understand what that meant. Somebody drilling something into his head, his decapitated head. They drill it, and they make Eraserheads out of it. I don't know what that means. That's pretty much how the movie ends, too, with that last shot of the Eraserheads being made. And I was kind of confused. I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? I've, like, followed every metaphor up to this point, and I don't know what this metaphor means. But, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the base of the story, is that's kind of revolved around nightmares, anxieties, metaphors for things that people deal with in real life. So it could be real life situation, just altered. Very weird film. Very, for 1977, it's a film that was very much out of the mold. This was a movie that doesn't have, you know, it's all black and white, so it's not all colorful and happy, and there's not like all kinds of music in it. There's no monsters or trying to kill people. There's no psychopaths. There's no, you know, killers. There's nothing like that. It's more of a psychological film. As you're watching the movie and as it goes on, there's just different things going on with it. the things I like about the movie is that I love the black and white look. I thought it fit the film perfectly, and it gave a great atmosphere to the film. The lead guy, Jack Nance, did a great job playing this character, Henry, who apparently, while this movie was being made, he had to keep that hairstyle because this movie took 6 years to make because of insufficient funds and reshoots. 6 years to shoot this film. Now, it's not as crazy as a film that I did a review for a long time ago, but it was on my old set of videos called The Manson Family that went through a, I think, 30-year production from like the 80s to the 2000s, and they used all that footage and put it into the one movie, and they ultimately made this movie, which is crazy to me. But with this movie, it took 6 years to make. And this guy had to keep his hair like that for 6 years. And then the movie finally got released in 1977. Now, it says here it got released in the U.S. in 1978, but it says here 1977 as the original release date. So, I don't know if it was a wider release in 1978. Maybe. But if you're going to watch Eraserhead, I definitely recommend it. It has a great black and white feel, like I said. The acting is really good. The characters are really good. It's very eerie, very creepy, very psychological. Uses a lot of metaphors, and it's just ultimately, I think, a brilliant film. The only downsides to the movie is that there's a couple of scenes that don't make sense, even after going back and watching it 2 times. It's like the very ending of the film, I don't get that. There are certain scenes I still don't understand, but maybe one day I will. And for me, the pace. It's an hour and 29 minutes, but it goes at a slow pace. Because it does drag a little bit. But besides that, I mean, the sound effects and the music that's there, the shots, the audio, the script, the overall kind of dream, nightmare atmosphere this movie has a lot of stuff going for it. So if you're going to give Eraserhead a watch, it's definitely an experience. But anyways, guys, I'll leave it there. Hope you guys with the review. And if you haven't seen Eraserhead yet, check it out. It's a really good movie. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching the review. Hope you guys enjoyed. The Explorer of Horror is out.